Hey everybody, Tucker Mail here once again in the studio to continue the momentum of just communicating some exciting things that are happening in our church and with our pastors. So today I'm going to be having a conversation that will give some exciting updates for our church with Pastor Kirk Krager. Welcome to the studio, Kirk.
Good to see you, sir.
Good.
Yeah,
It's good to be seen.
great to be here.
And I'm glad to be with you. So you are joining me to discuss some changes and some open, let's call them open doors for our church in our city. And I just wanted to have you come on and kind of describe a little bit of what that is. And so will you share with me and our church family what God is doing in your life right now?
Yeah. So we have prayed for a little while. I think one day you and myself and a couple other guys were in the green room, as they call it, and we were praying like, Lord, what do you want us to do? And I think out of that conversation, a real heart for church revitalization came out. If I remember the story correctly, it's immediately almost after that you got phone calls about Trinity Fellowship and then Pastor Reggie, and I don't want to go into that story too much, but just to say that the heart of church revitalization really came out. And I know for the past 5 years, I have been in my process of transitioning back to America from the mission field, just open and saying, God, I'm here to help advance your kingdom, to do whatever you want me to do, to serve you in whatever way. And that's led from one church to here back at Calvary Boise. And as you know, the prayer and the heart of church revitalization kind of moved forward, it seemed like another opportunity kind of presented itself here with a church in town called Cole Community Church. And I think a lot of people are going to be familiar with it. It has a long history here in Boise. And so it really looks like that door is opening for us, and not just me, but for us as a church to partner with them and to help revitalize their church. They've been through a real tough time. And again, we can go through as much detail as we want to.
Share,
but
why don't you share a little bit about the Open Door at Cole, like where they're at as a church, and then I want to kind of, I want you to share a little bit about what a heart for revitalization at that church looks like. So where is Cole Community Church? Tell us about this church, and then maybe describe a little bit about what you're going to be doing there.
Yeah, so Cole Community Church, it's over, geographically, it's over off of Maple Grove and Ustick here in Boise, and it's been around for years. I mean, they had a really well-known pastor named David Roper, who was a great man of God, influenced a lot of pastors. He started later a ministry that was called Idaho Mountain Ministries that cared for pastors so that they didn't get burnt out and things like that, something that I think that's very respectful and amazing that he did that and served the body that way. But Cole has been kind of like a powerhouse in some ways, alongside of Calvary, almost concurrent history in some ways. And Cole, they have a heart for missions. They have something they call Cole to the World. They focus on teaching through the Bible, just like our church. And they've just had a real strong influence in the Valley. They've educated a lot of the pastors, at least the previous generation in the Valley, through their Cole Institute of Biblical Studies. And so what happened, and I don't want to go into detail because sometimes the details are hurtful for people, but what happened was over the last few years, they just had some hardship as a church in their leadership and other things, and it ended up a church of 1,300 people going down to a church of about 150, 200 people. And the majority of those, of what we call the remnant, so to speak, are wonderful saints of God, but also the majority are 65 plus as far as age goes. And so when you're looking at multi-generational, passing on the faith to generations and reaching a city, it puts you in a bad position. And so they had a hard time, And so over the last couple of years, a lot of churches in the Valley, I again won't name them, but because I don't know if they want to be named, but have done a wonderful thing in helping Cole to cover for preaching on Sundays, to bring in worship, to help and serve that body of believers. Because I think there is a affection, for Cole Community Church in our Valley overall as the body of Christ. So I don't know, is that enough? Or
no, I think that's a good description of kind of the state of things.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think that it will be helpful to really, share the story of how we get connected and where our role is now to help, as you say, revitalize. And so with everything you shared about Cole now kind of in the open, what is the opportunity before you?
Yeah, so first of all, I'd say this is not something I was necessarily planning on this year. We obviously had discussions, but you never know. Like, you can talk and dream and vision about things, and so it's kind of surreal that the open door is opened at this time. Basically, the open door and what we've kind of said, hey, here's how we might be able to partner with you, is that I would go. I've been preaching there in the month of December, and I also preached there for 3 weeks in August and September. And so I've been preaching and just helping them out. And they essentially have said, would you come and lead an effort to revitalize our church and as the lead pastor? And so the opportunity is that I would go there on Sundays. I would be preaching, but more than that, a revitalization effort is, and I don't know how familiar people are with that term or whatever it may be, but is almost like a church plant, almost like a church replant. And it's basically saying we need more than just a person in the pulpit. We need people in the pews to help and serve and become a body with the existing body. And so our desire, I guess, our prayer would be that we'd get like 50 to 100 adults of younger ages, really, college age, post-college, young families that would feel called to go and kind of, in the words of Ephesians, like Jew and Gentile come together in one body, like older and new come together in one body, and then see how that could foster growth in the body and reach out to the community around there. And so a revitalization, just to revivify, bring back to life. There's life there. So it's almost like a plant that's there, and you just need to kind of like feed it and prop it up and then see more fruit kind of grow.
So you're going to go lead that effort.
Mm-hmm,
so you'll be there on the Sunday morning gathering to lead through preaching and just the vision casting of the lead pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And then what is, as we, in a sense, I give you my blessing to go and be part of this, what I believe is a revitalization effort for our Valley.
Amen.
As we are in a generational shift, and you sense, at least I do, there's this time that we live in for our city where a lot of the ways that God blessed our city by just, everywhere you look, there was just churches. We're starting to see kind of a consolidation of the flock where a lot of the big churches are getting bigger. A lot of the small churches are getting smaller, and maybe some churches no longer even around. So, it's my joy to be part of God's grace to allow his kingdom to stand firm. And we live in a time in our country, in our church age, where it seems like the church seems to be a little bit on the retreat. And so the idea that we could hold steady and see some land that was once the kingdom's and still is, if we could send our troops out to just get those fortresses strong, that's just a joy for me. Because I personally, and I think this is just the heart of the pastoral kind of collective of our Valley, I love our church, but I love the kingdom of God. And I want to be part of how the kingdom of God is blessing the city. And so the idea that we have, the gifts of the pastoral team that we have to be able to send one of our best preachers and just the experience you have, I'm so excited to get to send you. But I also don't want this update to sound like that we're sending you out the door and this is your farewell at Calvary Boise, because I really envision this, in some sense, as you send missionaries, it's always a blessing to wherever you send them, but they're interconnected to where they came from, and it's always a blessing to those who send. And so we're going to, no doubt, experience some learning through this on what it looks like to partner in this way. But will you share your vision for how to, in one sense, lead a revitalization effort on a scale that's Cole's scale right now, but also stay connected with the church body that we are, and what that looks like.
Yeah, that's super important to me too, because like I've told you many times, like I actually don't want to do this unless we do it together, and I mean that genuinely, because I have at this point, but I have no I think selfish ambition in this regard. Like it'd be more comfortable for me to serve here in some ways and just continue to work with you, and like relationally it's very enjoyable in all those ways. But for the sake of the kingdom of God, because Jesus did say in one interpretation of a passage, like occupy until I come. And I like that you use that language with churches and like Cole. And so like I do think I'm sensing a calling. Like for 2 years I drove by that church and knowing the things that they were going through and the difficulties they were having, and just praying every single day, like not that I was the solution, but Lord, would you help them? Would you bless them? Would you guide them? Would you bring that church back into life? And so like in that sense, like I do feel a calling. But yeah, I don't want to leave here either. And so that's difficult on one level to process, because this place means so much to me, and the people, of course, more than the place. I would say we've talked about a little bit. One thing is a lot of what I've done is set a foundation for our communities to thrive, and I think that foundation is about 80% of where I'd like it to be, but it's been built, and I'll be discipling somebody to kind of help to oversee that whole section of the ministries that I'm involved with, so that the people at Calvary aren't like neglected. I don't want that to happen, of course. And then I'll stay connected through missions, because I'll continue to do missions this year and serve that way. And missions at Cole has always been a big thing, and so I think we can have some partnership and stay connected that way, and I hope that's the case. And I'll still be in the office here, at least a day a week, whatnot. And so I'm hoping we can exchange pulpits and preach in different places, and overall this can be kind of a kingdom effort, that we have Trinity, we have Cole, and Calvary all working together, and then who knows what else God will do. So that's kind of my heart. And so staying connected will just be relational, but also some specific things that we'll do together. Another one of those things that will happen is just leadership pathways. That to me isn't like, oh, that's not my job anymore. That's actually a calling of like training leaders, and we'll have leaders from Trinity, leaders from Cole, leaders from Calvary, all on Wednesday night, once a month, meeting up for a cohort. And I just think like, let's connect them all as much as we can.
I see that in everything you said. I am excited. Anytime you send someone, I love to see how God does raise up the next person. So the person you're discipling to really oversee and lead our efforts to bring people into community, I think is really exciting, and more updates on that as we get closer to announcing that. I also think that it's so interesting to see how God's timing works, because just going back to your intro to this conversation, absolutely agree with you and remember that time when we were praying, and I essentially, this feeling, this sense that too many churches were turning into commercial, restaurants or coffee shops, or they were just being rezoned. And, in some ways you could almost, it could be to our benefit. It's like less competition, and that's just not our heart as we think through what God is doing in our little corner of his global kingdom. So there was this urge to be praying that God would allow us to, in any way we could, just encourage, support, send help to our church families across the valley. And so totally sense and agree that this is God's hand. And I just want to restate that, because I do not want to try to lead or try to send or try to help another church because we just have good ideas, or we think that we're somehow more strategic than a church that couldn't figure out how to keep up with modern day marketing. I don't think that's true at all. But I do look for ways that God seems to be stirring in us, teaching us to pray, opening up doors, and the timing of, all the little Trinities and Coles and Noah's sabbatical. I'm just looking for God to give us his hand of favor as we go along. And I think one of those timing, let's call it a signpost, is that you had also had it on your heart over these last couple of years to help lead in leadership, the development of leaders. And so it's like, wow, as we, I hope, bless Trinity by sending Reggie and the team that followed him, as we, I hope, will send you and some people may be watching right now that are like, I sense that God might be calling me to help out, that God was already organizing a way for us to be raising up leaders to both replace and to revitalize. And so I'm really excited for the Pathway leadership development pipeline, and in a sense that there's this working of God's timing where leaders from all three of these little congregations can get together, and we can, I hope, be unified in the doctrines and the philosophies that are going to come from this time together. So you're encouraging me just thinking through the timing of it all too. So that is, I think, a really important aspect of all of this.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Like when you talk about answered prayer, like about a week before the Cole elders kind of contacted me and wanted to say, yeah, we'd like to work with Calvary and with you as the lead guy. I literally drove by their building again. It seems like that's just because from my house, which is about half a mile from their church building, it's like I drive by there every day, go down Ustick, go over to Cole, and drive down to Calvary, which is kind of funny. Calvary Boise is actually the one on Cole Road.
Not lost on me. We're Cole, and they're Ustick.
But I would drive by there, and this last time, I remember just praying that prayer of Moses, saying like, Lord, unless your presence goes with me, I don't want to do this, and so like then literally called me the next week and just say, hey, we'd like to take up this proposal. And I said, okay, God, I guess that's you. I'm saying, Lord, please shut this down. Don't let this happen. I don't want anything of me or my purposes or my thoughts only. I want you. And so I'm just kind of taking that, and it feels like I'm kind of being moved along, almost like God's hand, just like here. And I'm just like, okay, God, this is what I'll do. And as long as you're with me and as long as our church family's with me, I'm happy to do that.
So just to kind of restate it, because 2024 is the year of communication. And so details forthcoming. This will be, we are sending you, and I think to find a reference, because this isn't necessarily something that we have a long history of doing as a church, but I do think that the missionary reference is at least worth looking at to say, okay, this is how we would send a man and his family, and we would send them, I hope, with a desire for them to reach a little corner of our world, and we would offer anyone who has been praying or seeking God for a potential open door to say, this might be it. So I want to send you in that way, and I just want to kind of give that is the picture. And then how all of this looks in as far as the details of how communities are going to be passed off, I just want to do a really good job of communicating along the way. So I have a feeling you're going to continue to be in the studio, and the person you're discipling for communities and the updates you have at Cole. I just want to let everyone know that we're sending, and it is a sending by faith and a step of faith. But the details we do know is that you're going to be leading them. You and I have met with the Cole elders, and they're going to be receiving you as their pastor. And so that's, just the joy that I can share on their behalf. When they basically offered that to you, and we, were able to confirm that, that was such a joyous moment for the kingdom. They were like overjoyed that they were going to be led. And so it's a really exciting time. When will that happen?
Yeah, good. I think it's important to kind of point out timing. So in February, the first Sunday in February, I'm going to start preaching there. So February and March will kind of be building relationship more with their elders and preaching there on Sundays, leading up to Easter. And then Easter, we're going to try to attempt some local outreach in that area and reach out to people, of course, with an Easter service as well and everything. But so it'll be those couple months just preaching, and we're trying to gather people to help us with worship and all of those other things. And eventually there'll be other
kind of specific team roles that we'll need that will be articulated and shared with people in more updates. And in fact, over February and March, we'll probably have like 2 or 3 prayer and vision nights where people can come either here at Calvary or over there at Cole and just come together, hear the vision of like, what does this revitalization look like? How can I play a part? Is this something God's calling me to? And so we'll describe it, we'll give vision, and then we'll just pray, and we'll ask people to pray. So so February, March, preaching there, building relationship with the elders, and then kind of publicly gathering a team, and then kind of trying to get a little bit of like a launch feel around just after Easter time. Of course, you got summer, and then that summer is always different, but then really aiming towards the fall to be like solidified as like, now we've got the team and it's working with the church, and now we're all coming together, and yeah.
Exciting. Those who are listening, they hear this news and they're like, man, I want to start praying. How can they be praying for you, for what's going on and the needs at Cole? And then what would you tell someone who is potentially going to join you in this effort?
Yeah. So, well, first, keep praying for their church. Obviously, those believers have been steadfast and faithful, and they have endured through 2 hard years without a pastor and all that. So be praying for the church, and then be praying just for the transition for myself and my wife and my 2 kids that are still in the house. One of the ways we're going to solve that problem is my daughter will still come to youth group over here. And in fact, I will not focus on youth ministry right away as part of the revitalization, because we have a great youth group here. So we can partner together that way too, and send people over here. So pray for that, pray for our family. I've got to now preach most weeks like you do. And so that's a different kind of transition. I've done it before, but it's a transition. So I appreciate prayer for that. And just for the right people. I guess one guy said that people get involved in ministry for like 3 reasons. First of all, like if they love you and they love your story, and they appreciate you. I don't know how much that's going to be the case, but I'd say, like, for me, that I do think this is part of God's story in my life, and I'm thankful. And so if that's compelling to people for whatever reason, sure, join the team. I think a lot of times it's like, well, you might have a place, and so if you're gifted and the bigger church environment, you have gifts that could serve in outreach or in kids ministry or whatever it is, like maybe your story needs to have a discipleship component where you help out in this new kind of revitalization effort, or just for the sake of the mission. I'd say, isn't it worth God's glory to see a church that's been influential and blessed so many be blessed, And I would say, like, I get that mindset of David when Goliath is kind of like talking badly about the people of God, and David's like, shouldn't God be glorified here? Doesn't anyone want to face this giant, so to speak? And so obviously that's Jesus. He does that for us. But then in life, like, I feel like this is a worthy cause. So if you feel like it's a worthy cause, I'd love to have you join us and be part of the team.
Next steps for those who are praying and potentially stepping out in faith with you is that you, as mentioned, you're going to be holding some vision nights, so be on the lookout for that. We are going to name the person that you are going to be discipling in the role of communities shortly, so be on the lookout for that. And if you'd like to, starting in February, or I suppose now, visit Cole, say hi to Kirk, welcome the new mission of his life through prayer and encouragement. And other than that, dude, exciting times, man. Thank you. Thank you so much for stepping out in faith. I am very confident that God is doing a great work through this whole thing. So excited for the updates. They're going to be good reports. So thanks, brother.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Keep praying, and we will have more updates soon. God bless you.